What's up, everybody? It's your boy Joe B1, your favorite rap and black series collector and hip hop Jedi. Hope everybody's doing all right today. I am just going live for a few minutes. Gonna do a figure type of live and stuff. But I've honestly been a little bit under the weather for about 5 or 6 days. Just kind of fighting off a bug, I think. And you can hear probably in my later videos. And today, you can probably hear some of that congestion going on. So I apologize for that. But I did want to come on live real quick, at least, and chat with you guys and whatnot. So hope everybody is doing good. Let's see. And today's going to be different. You know, I've got a few things I wanted to talk about. And some of it has to do with Star Wars. A lot of it really has to do with how Star Wars has been a help to me. And yeah, I kind of wanted to share some of that with you guys. Just hang tight with me real quick. I'm going to make some adjustments here. Let's see. Okay. But today, basically, what I was going to talk about has a lot more to do with life in general. You know, it can be real tough sometimes just navigating day-to-day life. And that's kind of the point of, Tongs Days, is to kind of give everybody who is a Star Wars fan kind of a, 10 to 15 minute kind of mental break from it. But I wanted to share a little bit about some of the motivation behind that. And, you might be like, well, Joe, what about are you going to show off some figures and stuff? And, I get to do that a lot. And I was going to do that today, but I just kind of changed my mind. So y'all hang with me. But I shared some of this on one of my episodes of Tongs Days recently. I kind of shared some of my background a little bit. Life's kind of thrown me a lot of crazy cards, man. And I know that nobody's had it easy. And we're going to share some of these specific stories over time here on the channel and relate it to how Star Wars has kind of helped me deal with some of that stuff. And some of you guys might relate to it. And that's my hope anyway. But I appreciate anybody who tunes in. And if you happen to jump on while we're live, feel free to comment along. And if you're watching along later on the replay, I appreciate you for tuning in. It means a lot. It's kind of interesting, I know that we all have, we've all lost a lot, especially in these last few years. And some of us have lost a whole lot, over a longer period of time. And it's weird, I've come to find myself really trying to learn how to enjoy life in between losses. And at the same time, kind of prepare myself mentally and emotionally for whatever that next thing is, whenever it's going to happen, right? And in between, I try to remain as positive as possible, and I find a lot of motivation and continuing by making music and bringing content and stuff to folks here who hang out with me here on the page, or more recently on the YouTube channel. But I spend a lot of time, trying to be a positive voice and keep a positive outlook and stuff. And then when something crazy comes along, oftentimes I try to view it, as positively as possible, or try to gain some good out of whatever tragic thing might be going on. And I say tragic because some of it is downright tragic. And like I said, one of these days we'll get into some of these specific stories. And I kind of shared with y'all very early on, my mom and my dad, when I was a young kid, were running a homeless shelter, taking care of sometimes over 100 people, families, men, women, kids. People kind of given up on a lot of stuff in life and whatnot. And so I got to see and to see them try to make a difference. And it was not easy for us guys. We didn't have a lot. Not to say that we weren't blessed, in other ways, but we didn't have a lot growing up. So it's not like we, you know, we're just this benevolent rich family running a homeless shelter or something. No, we were also we were struggling, and the place was funded largely on outside donations and donations from people who went to church there on Sunday. So it you know it's kind of a unique childhood, and going to school and stuff, especially being on the news a lot. And we were on the news a lot. um it People had this perception, of us. And the area that we were in was very affluent at the time, and they didn't like the idea of 100 and some odd you know homeless people living uh, right behind their really nice neighborhood at this church and shelter, you know. And so, going to school was always really interesting because people were just repeating what their parents said a lot of times, and just being really overall terrible, um which is a reflection of their parents. And at the time I even tried to take that viewpoint, but all they saw was what their parents saw, which is, oh, there's this bunch of homeless people living here and blah blah blah, when in reality we're there helping the community out by getting people back on their feet and such. But they didn't see it that way. And like I said, we always had the news out there or some other interest group or something, you know what I mean? And in the meanwhile, my parents were doing their best that they could to try and make everything work, and make sure all of us kids had everything we could for school and whatnot. Which, like I said, it wasn't easy. A lot of times in school I found myself having to borrow and ask, not showing up first day without paper and pencils, and a lot of the basic stuff. And it's just like I said, it's kind of an interesting childhood. And then I mean, there are so many things that happened there. I mean, like murder investigations and like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. So, having this outlet of enjoying things like Star Wars was instrumental music was huge too. I started making music at a really young age, and I was involved in performing and stuff like that from a really young age too. So, music has always been kind of a part of who I am, but um, the it's not so much a mental escape as so much as it is like a form of therapy, working making music and kind of working things out and sharing my personal discoveries and revelations with people, you know, if nothing else, just to show people that, survival is possible, even when things get hard. But um, being able to kind of hang out and throw on some Star Wars and kind of disappear into that universe for a while has always, and not just Star Wars. I mean, there's other franchises that I'm into as well, but um, highlighting Star Wars, there's this hope that kind of is underwritten in everything, this even when things get real bad, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the end. So there's kind of like this built-in hope that comes with being a fan of Star Wars that, it helps with, especially when I was a kid, like I said, and early on, all we had was the original movie. So, yeah, this, from my perspective, I wasn't some farm boy, although we did have some horses on the property. It was, a slightly different story, but you're kind of looking off into the distance in a way, like Luke. Um, and so it kind of gave that escape, mentally. But having that type of fandom as a kid, but also not having any income as a kid, because I was a kid, and then really growing up fast, and most everything that was coming in through the shelter was getting basically put back into the shelter. So it was that my parents always found a way to make Christmas happen, somehow, and there were some years where it wasn't much, maybe a card or something, but there was always something, and a nice meal and stuff. But we weren't getting always like hardly any of that kind of toys that celebrated our fandom. Not saying it didn't happen, but it wasn't commonplace, maybe once or twice throughout my entire childhood. Um, and so getting into adulthood and stuff, it was like not realizing until I'm sometime into my 30s, like, there's this whole side of me that basically didn't get to exist. Um, and I think some part of healing and growing up and moving on from that past pain is like acknowledging that kid back there kind of got, a raw deal, even if it's nobody's fault. But it's kind of shaped a lot of what I do, in terms of how I help people or try to help people, and you know my method to what I'm doing with music. Always it always has to matter. It can't just be just songs for song's sake. Like, it has to matter. It has to mean something, deep. Otherwise, I don't have any interest in it. And conversations are a lot like that too. Like, I have a hard time small talking. Um, and I find myself, kind of diving into these deep, philosophical rabbit holes, sometimes over the smallest conversational trigger. And I've kind of always been that way. And some people love me for it. Some people hate me for it, but it's a part of who I am. And, um, it but being an adult and realizing that there's this piece of part of me, this kind of thing that I didn't really actually get to experience or exist in the same way that most people do. Um, for a long time, I really was angry about that, and it's changed to, how can I help more people see that it's all right, and that sometimes it isn't anybody's fault. It's realizing that, in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases that, our parent, guardians, whatever, were doing the best that they could with what they had and the tools that they were equipped with, similarly to how I find myself trying to navigate life in an age where I thought I'd have it all figured out. Um, you know, where, uh, as a young person, I thought, man, for sure. But you can't foresee everything that is to come. And even if you try to plan for absolutely every eventuality, and you make every right move along the way, that doesn't mean that everything is going to go your way. And coping with some of that stuff has been kind of like something I put off for, up until, like I said, these last probably 5 or 6 years. And I was always putting myself second, third, fourth, putting my needs behind everybody else's. Behind everybody else's, behind the universe's at times. As long as I was fed and had water, I'm good. And let me try and make everybody else's life easier. And realizing that I spent a lot of time kind of ignoring and neglecting myself in that, and that some part of me was trying to find healing in being of service and, trying to scoop up all my broken parts and like, hey, here you go. Like, let me use some of this to help you out. And, along the way, like I said, it's kind of, it's crazy, but I don't know that, Star Wars is solely responsible for like seeing me to this point where I'm able to now make music and make content around this stuff and kind of speak more freely about some of the stuff I went through. But it did play a huge role. It has played a huge role. Music probably bigger than most things. But having this fandom and then being able to kind of participate in this fandom, maybe even on the outside, I'm not nobody famous or big or anything like that, but I've had some fun interactions with people who are over the years, and that has included now into this, Star Wars fan space that I've been working on creating, and with all of my people from Fan Force Alliance, which is another thing, like I'm I get sometimes a little bit hard on myself because I feel like I should be farther along. And sometimes I get a little bit hyper focused on just let me pump out videos and content for people because that's all they really care about. But to truth be told, most of the people I think that are following me here, some of y'all have been along the ride for some years now. Some people for even longer. As I've been a Facebook page since 2008 or something crazy like that. So, and I've, some of y'all have been following along from a long time ago. And I've gotten to see the various evolutions and de-evolutions at times. But in any case, I just want to tell y'all that I do have some good content coming, and I want to take some time in the future, maybe once or twice a month, where we kind of get into some of these stories about what shaped this person that you've met who has done a lot. I've done a lot, man. I've been around in a lot of environments and things that would have scared the hell out of most people, and things that um, people write movies and books about, and things that people dream about. And that isn't a brag. It's just what I lived in a lot of cases, and now I live this kind of really low key life for the most part. It still gets pretty exciting, but the excitement comes from like, how am I going to navigate this these tricky finances, or this emergency situation that pops up, kind of thing, and less about getting out there and acting wild. But I didn't want to take too much time on here, y'all. I just wanted to jump on and chat with you guys. I know it's kind of early, and a lot of people are still going to be at work, but I did want to jump on here and chat with y'all and kind of just create an opening towards eventually sharing some more of this, some more personal stories along the way, and kind of discussing how the hip hop Jedi came to be, how some of these failures and downfalls may have actually turned into strengths down the line, and how things that I felt that in the moment were going to either kill me or make me make a rash decision regarding myself actually turned into something more positive, and how taking the mindset of a Jedi has really helped frame how I want to continue kind of that path going forward. And that's why I kind of use that's why I like using the Jedi and the Force and all that stuff, because it kind of creates like this space that allows some of that wisdom that I've picked up over the years to breathe and give it some context, you know. But all right, guys, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I just wanted to pop on, hang out with you guys for a few minutes, give you a little something to watch, and give you a peek inside of the old hip hop Jedi psyche, mentality, and like I said, maybe open up some space for us to do some more kind of personal story time with the hip hop Jedi, and how that stuff might relate to the music and the Star Wars and to the figures and all of that, like how it all might work. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I appreciate you for watching. If you're watching along on the replay, go ahead and hit that like button, drop a comment, make sure you're subscribed here on JobyWY, that you've liked and followed the JobyWY page, and that you are subscribed to the Fan Force Alliance. And yeah, lots of cool content over there coming from myself and all of my fellow contributors. But guys, I am going to get out of here. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Much love, and may the Force be with y'all. I'm out of here.